This is the crazy world of online gambling. In 2024, casinos made over $72 billion, which is enough money to spend $1 million per day for 190 years straight, and you'd still have money left over, making gambling one of the largest industries in the world. But it gets worse. Online casinos have figured out how to exploit the most vulnerable players to make millions of dollars off of their losses and keep them coming back for more. As online gambling has grown more and more, they've started to target a very specific type of person, and it's not necessarily who you would expect.
Why now? Why this book right now?
I mean, I think we're at a point of what I would call a public health crisis.
If it didn't win, it had literally become a matter of life and death, and I was going to go and kill myself.
Humans have been addicted to gambling for a while now. In fact, some evidence suggests that gambling existed even before written history. Cavemen would play a form of dice using small animal bones with markings, and later in 3000 BC in Mesopotamia, they developed the first version of the six-sided dice we use today. Over thousands of years, gambling evolved from bones to dice to playing cards to betting on animals and more, all centered on three core principles. These three things are the only thing you need available for something to be considered gambling. Number one, the wager itself. How much money or tokens or things are you willing to bet? And that wager is then placed on number two, an event with an uncertain outcome. And finally, number three, the most important thing we care about, the prize. What do I get if I win the bet? For example, in horse racing, you place your bet, which is the wager, on a specific horse winning, which is the event with an uncertain outcome. And if you win, you could walk away with double your money. In theory, you can bet on just about anything. Will my team win tonight? Who will be the next James Bond? Will the price of Ozempic fall before February? And this is exactly what hooks our brains into the idea of gambling.
But to understand just how deep the psychological manipulation goes, I had to dig into decades of research on gambling addiction and brain chemistry. And honestly, without Notion's new AI tools, I would have been drowning in all of this information. Let me show you what I mean. What used to take me hours of searching through websites, summarizing things before adding them into my notes and then into my script can now be done all at once.
All I have to do is head over to the new Notion home tab and use the research box to search for what I'm trying to find. The AI will then start searching through different sites online about gambling and brain chemistry. It will pull neuroscience journals, addiction research, and behavioral psychology papers,
and then neatly summarize it into a full document for me to review. But it gets even better. I like to think out loud while I brainstorm these videos, and I previously had to type all of my thoughts out, which would always slow me down and cause me to lose track of what I was thinking. But with Notion's new Meetings AI, I can just start a meeting with myself and just begin to talk out loud. I'll point out important details about the research, I'll say what I need to look into more, and I'll begin to just flush out the general idea of the video. And when I'm finished, Meetings AI will summarize everything that I said and also create a list of action points for anything I need to work on. As you can imagine, this used to take me hours of work, and with Notion, it's simplified into a matter of minutes. Everything is now neatly organized and ready for me when I sit down to write my script. Use the link in the description below to try out Notion for yourself. Not only does it support the channel, but it also helps you take more control over your work. Thank you to Notion for sponsoring today's video. Now let's take a look at how gambling evolved from mafia-run crime syndicates to a $580 billion industry.
In 2006, Congress passed the Security and Accountability for Every Port Act, which sounds like it has nothing to do with gambling, which it didn't. But buried deep within the walls of text of this act is what created the modern gambling industry we see today. The Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, which was inside of the Security and Accountability for Every Port Act, banned gambling companies from taking money over the internet, which was the government's workaround way, not necessarily to ban gambling, but they made it impossible for the gambling to actually happen online. But two companies figured out a little loophole in the UIGEA that turned them into the gambling juggernauts we know today as DraftKings and FanDuel. You see, what they found was that although the act banned online gambling, it had a special carve-out defining what a gambling bet or wager actually is. But before we get to that, I should explain the difference between a chance game and a skills game. Gambling, by definition, is playing a game of chance for money. Chance is the unknown aspect or the random unpredictableness of gambling. When you press the button on a slot machine, there is zero skill required for you to win or lose. It's completely up to chance. But skills games, that's a whole different thing. When playing a skills game, the outcome is mainly based on the skills of the player, not the random chance of probability. And because of that, a skills-based game is not technically considered gambling, which made it legal while all other forms of online betting were completely outlawed. Fantasy Sports Live came first, then we saw the rise of DraftKings and FanDuel, all marketing daily fantasy sports betting. Instead of betting on the outcome of a sports game, they allowed users to create fantasy teams and bet on their fantasy outcomes. Because building the right fantasy team requires skill, or so they argued. Through player research, data analysis, salary cap management, and game lineup strategy, fantasy games were skills-based games, thus not gambling. DraftKings and FanDuel grew steadily through their fantasy games until 2018 when the Supreme Court overturned a previous law outlawing sports betting, which basically opened up the floodgates for these two companies. Since then, they've gone on to become two of the largest sports betting companies in the world, controlling over 90% of the market through their websites, taking the world of gambling from back alleys and mafia meetings to every corner of the country and across every TV in America. And as it exploded, the casinos and sportsbooks got way smarter about who they targeted. Because after all, they don't make money on people who win. They want to find the biggest losers and push them for all they've got. But first, let's take a look at how easy it is to get hooked on gambling.
The mass legalization and normalization of sports gambling has the potential to rival the opioid epidemic in the United States. It's destruction of the American family unit.
So I live in Texas, where real money, online casinos, and sports betting are illegal. But as with everything, there are loopholes. Meet stake.us, not to be confused with stake.com. Although they are the same entity, one is considered a real money online casino and the other a sweepstakes casino, meaning that instead of betting real money, I'm simply buying tokens and then using those tokens to place my bets on the games. So if I were to play a game like Plinko here, it's completely legal in Texas if I play using these gold coins. And if I win some money, I can convert it to stake cash and then withdraw my stake cash through gift cards or cryptocurrency, which seems completely normal and not fishy at all. The casinos don't care how you gamble, they just care about taking the money from your wallet and putting it into theirs. And they do that through complex psychological tricks that you don't even realize are happening until it's too late.
It tracks back to this behavior loop that I call the scarcity loop. It's got opportunity, unpredictable rewards, and quick repeatability. Opportunity, you have an opportunity to get something of value. So in the case of a slot machine, it's money. 2, unpredictable rewards. You know you're gonna get the thing of value if you continue the behavior, but you don't know when, and you don't know how valuable it's going to be. So with a slot machine game, when those reels are spinning, you could win nothing, you could basically lose your money, you could win a couple dollars, or you could win a life-changing amount of money. And then 3, quick repeatability, you can immediately repeat the behavior.
And the crazy part is that this 3-part system is all around us on a daily basis. The system is designed to make you want to repeat a behavior. So whether it's pressing the button on a slot machine, refreshing your Instagram feed, or buying more stocks on Robinhood, you are continuously coming back to see if your post is doing better than last time, if your stocks have gone up, or if you got a new match on Tinder. You don't know what you're gonna get, but the unpredictable nature is what keeps you coming back to check over and over again. And the casinos, to their credit, have mastered the game of psychology. They understand that the thing that keeps us coming back for more is the dopamine rush we get. But the weird part is, the dopamine rush doesn't even happen when you win the mega jackpot. Instead, the largest surge of dopamine in your brain comes right before you find out if you won, while the ball is spinning around the roulette wheel or while the slots are flying by. In that small window of time, your body's dopamine levels skyrocket throughout your brain because you have no idea what could happen next. Your brain is convinced that you are about to win $1 million. And that feeling is exactly what hooks people into gambling and keeps them coming back for more. Because in your head, there's a chance that this next round might be the big winner. And even if you are actually winning, the casinos won't let that happen for very long. But if you're losing, they'll roll out the red carpet for you, which still leaves the question of who are they targeting with these games? If they're so good with psychology, shouldn't they know exactly who they need to market to in order to make the most money? Yes, they do. But the question we need to answer before this is what happens with all of the money? Surely the government isn't going to let this infinite money glitch happen without getting a piece of the pie. In 2024, commercial gaming revenue, which included land-based casinos, sports betting, and online gambling, hit a record of $72 billion in the US. Of that $72 billion, $16 billion was allocated to state and local governments for taxes. So it's definitely not a small amount of money. And lobbyists lobbyists have argued that the states are better off legalizing gambling and collecting the tax revenue because if they didn't, people would find ways to gamble anyway, but the government wouldn't get any bit of it, which makes sense. They'd rather just have it out in the open versus hidden in the shadows. They also argue that it's a form of painless taxation. In other words, it's a way for the government to increase taxes without actually increasing the tax burden on all citizens. There's also an argument to be made that gambling and casinos increase tourism and job growth, which I can definitely understand. Therefore, I guess it makes sense to leave it up to the people to decide whether or not they want to participate. But there's still some issues I have with the way they market it, because the victims these casinos are going after might surprise you. You see, as we've learned, these gambling corporations are very good at what they do. Most of the gamblers that feed these businesses are highly educated, high-earning, financially literate men. They're typically overconfident and think they have more control over their bets than they actually do, and they're making enough disposable income to convince themselves that they can risk more than they actually have. But in reality, the average gambler is carrying between $50,000 to $90,000 in debt, often resorting to using credit cards to pay down their debt, only feeding the debt cycle even more. That said, there's also a scientific reason that casinos target these men. With an overwhelming 82% of gamblers being men between the ages of 18 and 35, casinos have figured out the key to creating degenerate gamblers. By targeting young men, they're going after individuals who don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the exact piece of your brain that handles risk assessment and decision making. Basically, your brain breaks things down between two systems. System 1 is your fast, reactive, gut feeling decisions, while system 2 is your slow, methodical, and logical decision-making tree. I'll let you guess which system casinos want to leverage. System 1. Obviously. Before your prefrontal cortex is fully developed, young men largely rely on System 1 thinking, which explains a lot of the dumb decisions we all made growing up. But it doesn't stop there. By targeting System 1 thinking, casinos get you to impulsively bet higher amounts, bet more often, and keep coming back for more even after you've lost big. Because deep down in your gut, you know there's always going to be a win on the other side of all those losses. Now, after the Supreme Court ruling in 2018, every casino saw the writing on the wall. DraftKings and FanDuel had led the charge, and now everyone wanted in on the action, which is why we now see countless ads on TV advertising sports betting with celebrities like Post Malone, Kevin Hart, or LeBron James. Basically, the casinos figured out that not only can they extract all of the money out of your wallet, but they can also bring in new bettors by making it look like the cool thing to do. You can't even watch an NBA highlights video on YouTube without getting an ad for a gambling company. And because of this constant flow of gambling ads, it's become the new thing in college towns. It seems like every guy at the bar on a Saturday night is talking about the parlay they have tomorrow that they just know will hit if Josh Allen can just run more than 10 yards. Not only that, but the casinos throw in bonus bets or risk-free bets to get you to try it out. And they're hoping that that innocent $10 bet you just placed on the Sunday Night Football game will turn you into their next honeypot. Between sports betting and prediction sites like Kalshi or Polymarket, you can place a bet on just about anything in the world today. Even the specific word the White House press secretary will say in her next press briefing. The question is, how far is too far? I'm all for free markets and letting people decide what to do with their own money, but as the marketing has skewed more and more to entangle young men in the world of gambling, is there a point where we need to step in and draw a line? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably also like this video about the student loan trap that so many of these high-value gamblers now find themselves in.